Greetings, fellow DC superfans. Tiki here. Sorry. After getting educated in all things DCAU Batman, I've decided it's time to embark on a journey to the Arctic to learn about Superman, the animated series. Aiding me along the way is Bluedragonfive.
That's right, folks. Like Jarrell, I'm serving as Tiki's pre recorded guide through Superman the Animated Series with the goal of shedding light and showing Tiki the way to better understand the history of The Last Son of Krypton.
So let's fly to the Fortress of Recaps and talk Mxyzpixilated. I hope I said that right.
Yeah,
Probably did it. I'm guessing.
well, it's close.
All right, I'll
Mix. I
take
think
it.
it's. I think it's supposed to be like mix a pick, mixy. Now you got me doing it. Mix a pickle. Mix. All right, it's like pixel. Mix a pixelated.
Oh God. All right. Okay, so Dragon, this is one of the few Superman the Animated Series episodes. Like, I definitely have seen others. Like, in my youth, I'm sure I saw a handful of episodes just randomly. I don't really remember which episodes, but this is one of the few that I've seen like in recent times because, of course, this episode, you and I don't think we did like a full recap on it, but I watched it for the Gilbert Gottfried in memoriam. So yeah, it's kind of fun to revisit it for sure. And I think this is definitely probably as far as like the comedic episodes of the show go, this is definitely the best one we've gotten so far. I don't want to say it's like, the single best episode of the show so far, but as far as comedy goes, it is pretty on point. And I think this is just a really good Clark Kent episode. This is just like Clark Kent trolling Gilbert Gottfried, and I kind of love that. So I don't really think the episode's that deep. I just think it's basically the episode is basically like a Looney Tune short for all intents and purposes, and I really enjoy that. So yeah.
All right. So this was directed by the great and powerful Dan Reba. Of course, the Last Son of Krypton Parts One, I believe Parts One and Three. He did the Main Man, the Big Lobo episode, which is another comedy episode. This was written by Paul Dini. This is a Paul Dini special, folks. Of course, Paul Dini, when he writes an episode of Superman, it's a big episode of Superman. Did the pilot, The Last Son, along with Alan Burnett, and he also did the Main Man. So again, very very on brand that he would do the Main Man as well as our Mixie episode. And this is presumably this still remains true. Paul Dini has always said he loved this episode. This is like his favorite episode of Superman they ever did.
This absolutely feels like it has his fingerprints all over it, obviously, and for good reason.
There is a lot of Dini in this. So the studio worked on this was Coco with some yummy marshmallows of nostalgic Dong Yangi goodness in there as well. So the studio, of course, they've done Stolen Memories, The Last Son of Krypton pilot, and Identity Crisis, the Bizarre Superman episode. So they do good and consistent work. All right, so long story short, so Mxyzptlk, silliest Superman foe from the 40s. Dates goes all the way back, and it's kind of this almost obligatory, with very few exceptions. Mixie is kind of like the tradition of like, okay, do we do Mixie or do we not do Mixie? Mixie is always like the silly episode of any Superman show. Usually the cartoons. He's really big in the cartoons. They'll make an appearance in some way, shape, or form as like a nod to like, okay, this really ridiculous part of Superman's mythology we have to acknowledge. So Paul Dini, he loved Mixie as a kid. He loved the idea that Superman going up against like this little, essentially a little mean leprechaun, being this very childish foe, very cartoony foe for Superman to go up against. Which for the kids reading Superman was like, oh man, our demographic is represented in this foe. We like this. So it's very much like a love letter and kind of tribute to Mxyzptlk, and very much the definitive take on Mixie without question. So it was a lot of fun, and also allowed Dini and company to really kind of go into kind of their love of the classic Looney Tunes as well as kind of stuff they brought to Tiny Toons, which of course happened before Batman the Animated Series, which is where they were able to with basically one plucky duck short, Batman was kind of born. So it's very much, Tiny Toons very much linked into the DNA of the DCAU. So it's very pivotal, and they very much were going back to that kind of fare with this. So yeah. All right.
All right, let's just jump right in then.
Okay. So we start. Now this is really cool. So a few little tidbits here and there. So the opening scene. This is pulled directly from the first appearance of Mxyz in the '40s, which, by the way, is the look that we're going with his character design. So Mxyz has two looks, period, in the comics. In the '40s when he's created, he looks pretty much exactly, with some Bruce Timm improvements, is what you see in this episode. And then later on, the look that Mxyz basically got from the '70s. Well, I guess pretty much any appearance like '50s onward was like this goofy orange and purple outfit that looked stupid, made him look really stupid. Which we're always kind of stuck with. So we pull a lot of stuff here. So originally, Mxyz is like Superman comes across this strange little man who basically gets hit by a car, and he kind of dies, which is what the little comic strip shows later on. So he fakes his death as like a gag. So we kind of homage that here, where he's looking for McGurk and everything. This is exactly like the first time we ever see Mxyz flawlessly adapted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so this crazy little man.
I just love the voice delivery of just Godfrey just yelling McGurk, McGurk. I mean, just that name alone, just the phonetics on that name alone are so perfect for Godfrey.
It's a name that exudes classic Looney Tunes. There's so much just
right.
So Superman goes to save him. Just turns the bubbles, and Superman's like kind of doing a double take, like, wait, what? So Act 1 is very much Superman kind of baffled, then enlightened, and then like, what's he going to do about the situation? It's kind of how the three acts of this episode goes. Act 1 is just Superman being baffled and befuddled. Basically, the audience's POV, like, what is happening? We haven't done any of this in the other Superman episodes. Not even the Mall episode that Tiki doesn't like. We didn't do that anywhere. So Gilbert Gottfried, just to give the man props again, flawless casting. I mean, it's kind of like the way Kevin Conroy is the identifiable voice of Batman. I think when we all think of Mxyz done proper, it's Gottfried.
Now, Kogias, he basically says that Mxyz is his definitive. Actually, he says that Mxyz is Godfrey's definitive role. Kokias, I'm curious. Did you see this episode before you saw Aladdin? Because I find it hard to believe that anyone would not be exposed to Iago first when it comes to Godfrey.
Yeah, imagine it's probably between Aladdin and this. It's kind of like that's one of the early "I know that voice" kind of moments where you realize, wait a minute, I've heard that before. I've heard that iconic '90s voice somewhere else.
Well, you know the first one that I came across, right? I think I've told you before.
Yeah, you did, but you have to remind me what it was.
Yeah, sure. It's I realizing that Rex from Toy Story and the principal from
I thought you meant with Godfrey, but yeah, Wally Shawn.
No,
yeah.
I'm just saying in general with the whole I know that voice.
Yeah, oh yeah, I remember you talking. I remember that one with you. Yeah, Sorry, I forgot I didn't know we mentioned like the first one ever.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Anyway, yeah. So point being, Godfrey as just what's great about Mxyz and the way Godfrey's playing him is that he's just this great contrast to Tim Daly's Superman. You have this very refined, subtle acting style on our Superman, to this very broad Looney Tunes, just foghorn voice, just Gilbert Godfrey.
It's a little bit of Elmer Fudd meets Yosemite Sam, as far as he's kind of got Elmer Fudd's design, but he's a little bit more of a Spitfire like Yosemite Sam.
And again, this is original Mxyz had that. When he got refined, he just kind of looked less like the Elmer Fudd design and everything, which is just so much better, though. But yeah,
I love the image of Mxyz coming out of the newspaper, which of course is why I chose it for the thumbnail. Also, I really like the fact that in this thumbnail in particular, we have Clark interacting with him, because I really think that that's kind of the root of the episode. It's, obviously Superman is in the episode, but I like to think that most of the episode is Clark outwitting him, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. So we're at the Daily Planet. Little Jimmy Olsen action. He's showing Clark, hey, you got to check out this comic, Mr. Kent. So we see some of the. I don't know if you freeze frame the paper by chance. There's a lot of great in jokes. I mean, Tiki, it's worth a rewatch just for that alone because they put like every comic strip is an in joke, and it's a really funny in joke. I'm gonna tell you one that's gonna make you geek out. Okay,
Mm.
top one. It's Deanie the Meanie. So it's Paul Dini caricatured. So it's Deanie the Meanie, and if you notice, even by like the artist, it says Deanie the Meanie by Bill We Miss You. You know why it
Mm.
says Bill We Miss You, don't you?
I mean, I assume it's about Bill Finger.
No,
Oh, it's
Bill
not?
Watterson, the Calvin and Hobbes guy.
Oh, well, shit. No, I did not know that. I did not put the pieces together on that.
So I think if you freeze frame, you see like it's a Calvin and Hobbes parody where it's like, what if Calvin, like what if he sabotaged Hobbes? What if he sabotaged, the imaginary friend? That's why he's the meanie. So he's basically killed off the imaginary friend with a devious Deanie like expression. And it says, Bill, we miss you because Bill Watterson retired in '95. And that was like their little, we miss you, Bill. We love Calvin and Hobbes kind of.
Mhm.
And there's like Dan Danger's like Dan Reba, the director, in there. And there's this really funny one about Glenn Murakami in the Peanuts style. So it's called Glean. And it's Glenn Murakami. He had this catchphrase behind the scenes. It was really funny, and it's basically done as like a Peanuts gag, where it's like he says, "Hey, Glean, can you help me with my layouts?" And he basically yells like in the whole like you yell. Peanuts character yells at you, and you do like the circus tumble. He says, "Do what? Do I gotta hold your hand?" Anyway, point being, a lot of funny gags like that. And it's the last one, of course, is Mxyzptlk, which adapts that original Mxyzptlk comic, and it says by Siegel and Schuster, which was
Yeah, that's a
huge.
great Easter egg.
Given those guys, their whole story is that they never got credit. That's a really
Right,
sweet little
right.
nod. Like we gave them credit for Mixie. So comes out of the paper, and it's like just a perfect summation of the episode. This character's bigger than life. In our show about comic book characters, he's coming out of the comic strip, which is where Superman even started before the comic book. You know? So yeah, just the panel effect really really good there. So Mixie's Superman is just baffled. What is going on? Like, Lois, did you see the little man? The little man, small, but you got to get out more. What's going on? We got an art gallery to go to. I'm sorry. Before that, though, we have the big definitive Mixie moment that helped us out a lot, and we should probably say for everyone else. We have the phonetic pronunciation of Mxyzptlk in a way that I think everyone's committed to memory. At least I have. The whole he transforms his head into each like part, like mixer for the mix, yes, for the yes, and the spit, the lick, the whole. It's great. That exists because Alex Ross, the wonderful painter, Alex Ross and Paul Dini, who were friends and have worked together, they always debated over how to pronounce Mxyzptlk, because a lot of people say Mxyzptlk. That's how it was said for years before this episode. That's because of Super Friends. Super Friends is like Mxyzptlk, and Alex Ross said it has to be the Super Friends, and Dini's like, no, it's Mxyzptlk. That's how you say it. And this is like him settling the debate. Anyway, so we're at the museum, and they're unveiling the Thinker. Rodin's the Thinker, interrupted by McGurk.
Oh my god, I just love the concept of like such a self-serious piece of art having such a silly Looney Tunes name.
I love the thing here where people are starting to hear it. So Clark's saying, maybe I'm not going crazy. People are hearing him too. And he's just trying to rein in like the crazy little guy making a scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Anyway, so he recognizes McGurk as the Thinker. Says, McGurk, finish your business and let's get out of here. And it becomes the life, and it's the voice of Frank Welker. He's walking away with a statue, which is kind of an art theft, maybe. And Superman goes
In some ways, yes.
So Superman has to get into the episode somehow, and he's like,
Kind of reminds me of I think the character's name was Manny from DuckTales, the living statue guy.
Yeah, the horse head. Well, the
yeah. Kind of gives me some of that energy a little bit.
For sure. But I just love that it's like this friendly Frank Welker voice on this big goofy, on like Rodin's the Thinker.
Now that's definitely like a bit that feels like it's out of Animaniacs right there.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. He says, McGurk, get rid of this bum, man. Superman gets into a fight with the statue, and he basically knocks the statue's head off, and then reality is set in thanks to Mixie's powers, and everyone is. I felt so bad for Superman. Everyone's like, Superman, what did you do? You just destroyed the priceless work of art. And then we have a daily Tim contender, where just the baffled.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them in this episode.
Like the baffled Superman is saying, "Sorry, it was the little man." Just the way, the patheticness in which he says it was the little man.
All the little man repeats just collectively could be like a daily Tim.
Oh yeah. All right, so basically, we suggest that he's been plagued by Mixie for a week now, and Clark has gone to visit Ma and Pa Kent on the farm to kind of confer with people. See, I think I'm going insane. I can't go around flying as Superman if I'm attacking statues.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is definitely the most we've seen of these two since like the 3-part pilot, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so nice to see him again for sure.
Yep, and let's see. So also we have a little nod here to. Well, I'll save it for what we get to in a second here. Anyway, so we have this eerie moment where the Kents respond to like what Clark's going through here. He says, "Oh, Clark, I'm sure there's a rational explanation." Then Ma Kent suddenly just has this very precise explanation for, like, "Oh, it's just a brilliant godlike being from a dimension twice removed from ours." With
just testing your face. That what makes you so sure?
Just so bizarre. But just bizarre in just the right ways where it feels off, and just the way it makes Clark raise an eyebrow here. And then it gets really bizarre where Pa Kent's giving like some nickel and dime, just kind of folksy wisdom here, where it says like, "Well, son, that what matters is following through, like a nice firm peck when you're scratching up corn." And they turn into chickens, but not just turn into chickens. As humans, they are pecking the ground for like bread and corn and stuff, and then they actually turn the chickens, and it is Mixie's doing, and they keep getting turned into things, and it's crazy. But again, just like Tim Daly's performance as the straight man and all this, like, Ma, Pa, he's like, oh my god, poor Superman, like he has no idea what's going on here. So, Mixie's like just having fun here, so turn him into ducks, which of course he first turns him into ducks. That has to be a nod to Affleck.
You think? Was he doing Affleck at this point?
I mean, I thought it was in the 90s? Was it Affleck the 90s or the 2000s? Okay. If it was the 2000s, then you're right. It's an impossibility.
Hold on. Gilbert Gottfried. I think I've told this story before, but I remember when I saw it debuted in 2000. So this was slightly before, I believe.
Oh, how Nostradamus.
Right. I believe I told this story before, but I was randomly, this was like, God, forever ago. There was this new Ben Affleck movie. It was based on a Philip K. Dick novel. It was called Paycheck. There's a trailer for it. Oh, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
No. I mean, I remember Paycheck.
Yeah, and someone in the audience, when the trailer was coming on, like every time Ben Affleck would appear, he'd just be like, Affleck!
Yeah. All right, let's see. So they go from
crazy that, like, when you think about it, like, why wouldn't Affleck hire Ben Affleck? Don't you think that would just be like perfect cross synergy?
I mean, I think Affleck might have turned him down, would be my guess.
Maybe. But I mean, in this era of celebrity promotion, when like Ryan Reynolds like basically owns Mint Mobile, like, I don't know.
Yeah. It'd be even funnier if like, when he was around, it would have been really funny if like Affleck just kind of hired, Gilbert Gottfried just to go with them places, and would announce his presence saying, Affleck. Anyway. So he transforms into ducks and ostriches, then some weird, awesome-looking alien creatures. And I love the super. He non-threateningly, again, non-violently has to because they're his parents. So he just pins them to the wall with like the dining room table. So then we have another Daily Tim kind of contender here, where he grabs Mixie after all. It's like, bring them back, do it. He is not playing around. Like, hey, you don't mess with Mom, Pa Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he basically puts. I always love this guy where Mixie he basically puts Buck Kent into like the farmer painting and puts it on the wall. Yeah. So Act Two, we properly introduce Mixie.
Mhm.
It's basically fifth dimensional imp. Sees Superman as the ultimate challenge. To give him plenty of laughs, and because I've done this dance with schmoes who thought they can go 15 rounds with the old master, and he basically demonstrates and explains that the old legends of genies, imps, leprechauns, all Mixie, all him. Which is always the coolest thing about Mixie is that Mixie is an example of Superman being able to deal with magic, which of course is the third weakness that we don't really talk about a lot with Superman. This was like if we're gonna do one really glorious example of Superman kind of helpless against magic, this is the funniest way in which we could go about it in a way that's gonna be really memorable. So yeah.
Mhm.
Also, we have a lot of some little deep cut nods too. When the cat is flying, that is it's a nod to Shrieky the Super Cat. Like we saw in Crypto the Super Dog, little cat that little Superman's cat with the red cape that can fly. So Shrieky, little. Anyway,
That's an adorable name.
yeah. All right. So point being, we they strike a bargain, they strike a deal here, which is if you make me say, spell, or reveal my name otherwise backwards, I will go back until our dimensions align, which is basically 3 months. And we have this really clever bit where the first of many, Superman cleverly outfoxes the little imp. Where he says, "I can't even say your name forwards. How do I say it backwards?" No, I'm supposed to say it backwards. I don't even know. Well, say what? Kill Tipsy's him just instantly, just like like gosh,
So this whole thing is obviously it's obviously like a play on like Rumpelstiltskin, right?
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But now, to be fair, the original, I'm
A
saying
little
this is
bit
like
of
always,
Beetlejuice too.
yeah. So I mean, the whole Rumpelstiltskin thing, that's always like a thing that
Except
was like,
except unlike the opposite of I'm sorry, the opposite of Beetlejuice, because unlike Beetlejuice, he definitely does not want you to say his name.
yeah. But yeah, so it's like the Rumpelstiltskin thing has always been like kind of I think an element with the character, but it's the fact that the character's always been like, if you say the name backwards, that's how you get them to go away. But this is like kind of a funny way in which I don't think we've ever done it as funny as this, though. So the Looney Tunes shenanigans begin with this. So the Kents are back. The son, did something happen? No, what's for dinner? All right, so 3 months later. So this is something we should talk about real quick. The
Just the
timetable of
fact
this
that this
episode.
episode takes place like roughly like over the course of like close to a year.
About a year and a half passes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, many increments of 3 months, given like we're starting like pretty much over a year passes in this episode, in the span of one episode. It's kind of crazy.
So that's really fun. That's like definitely the first time that we've played around with an episode going. I mean, obviously we have like the pilot, which covers like his entire childhood and everything. But like once we get into the episode proper or the episodes proper, I believe this is the first time that really covers a significant chunk of time at all, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. I mean, this significant, in the short form, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right, so we have Superman. So 3 months have passed. Superman's shaving. This is always a little clever gag, and this was like every time. Do you remember when Man of Steel came out? There was the whole debate: how does he shave? That whole stupid thing.
Yeah, I do remember that, and it was stupid.
So this was always my answer to it. Well, Superman the animated series showed us this is how Superman shaves.
Right? Like, haven't you people watched the definitive piece of Superman media? Come on now.
Yeah, he uses the heat fish, and even though technically, look, really, any way you slice it, it doesn't make sense. And the gag is when he opens up that cabinet, the razor's right there. He's just Superman's just kind of lazy. That's kind of the gag. He just has to use the heat fishing. Anyway, so Mixie's in the mirror, and he's like, "Hi, guy," and he's tossing his head out the mirror. Just again, Looney Tunes shenanigans, just funny. He said, "Mixie's got a bruised ego because he was outfoxed so fast, and he is determined to have his fun. But again, he's nowhere near as clever as super clever as Superman. As we basically just he gets him. He calls him Mr. Kill Tipsy. It's not Mr. Kill Tipsy. It's nuts. Just disappears right there. And Superman just whistling as he goes back to it until 3 months later again. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, later, 3 months later, Mixie's at the Daily Planet. We have this gag. I think this is one of the most clever ones in ways in which we got rid of Mixie. So Clark is, he's telling Mixie, okay, look, Mixie, we'll go on the roof in like 20 minutes and
Oh no,
it
this
out.
is my favorite one as well, the typo one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like this one for sure.
Yeah, so I got to proofread this article. Give me like 20 minutes. Like, no, give me that. I'll edit the rag. I'll edit the rag for you.
It's like fucking 4D chess on Clark's part, man. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and it's a thinker too. I appreciate that it was like a thinker, but it reads pretty clearly that he had all the type. He knew he was going to show up at some point, so he had all the typos in Kill Tipsyism, and like Lois is coming by to kind of drive it home to the audience. Like, Small, you're losing your touch. Look at all these typos, and he demonstrates for the kids out there watching Kill Tipsyism. Yeah. So we see what now. This is funny. So we see where does Mixie go after between 3 months. So we go to the fifth dimension in his little apartment in the fifth dimension, in which we see Gypsy, his very attractive, very attractive old school like Tex Avery style girlfriend.
Yeah, Tex Avery is definitely a good. That's a good comparison for sure. Great
So
design.
So Gypsy is from the comics, but the idea from the series onward, they made her attractive because before then she just looked like Mixie or looked kind of non-human. It was like a whole the point of making her like this bombshell. This is a Dini gag to the tease, man. Making her like a Dan DeCarlo Archie Comics girl mixed with Jessica Rabbit, aka like the Tex Avery look, and just being like this this very almost like a model, just like, oh, Mixie, hello. Just could barely care, just reading her magazines. Just like she's like this gorgeous bombshell of a girl just stuck with this short little maniac.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Anyway, so he's determined, he's got tunnel vision, gotta get Superman. She suggests, well, okay, Mixie, why don't you just get him before he has a chance to make you say it? It's just, Gitsby, you're brilliant. He smooches her. He's like, he has an idea, and he's building essentially this giant battle suit. And this is one of the funniest things the whole episode to me. This amazing montage of him spending the 3 months building this giant, over the top, silly, battle suit that looks ridiculous. It's got like a big zipper on the fly. It's got like weapons and stuff on the shoulders. The gadget nut in me is like, I love this. This is perfect for Mixie. He's getting a manicure, and we have like this great cartoon gag where like the beautiful girl is like trying to get his attention, and she's doing a little fashion show with her magic and like little snap effect, like she's like a cheerleader, she's a sailor, she's wearing a towel and just like drops a plate on his head, undeterred. My favorite little gag is like the months. So the months work differently in the fifth dimension. The 3 months are George, Relish, and Pants, Tiki. Pants! The third month is Pants.
That's a fun little detail where it's like, I imagine that would be kind of easy to miss if you're not really paying attention to it.
That's Dini writing, my friend. No other writer ever would pitch Pants as a month. Definitely. I promise you that. So then the coup d'etat here. He says, "Don't wait up for me, Gypsy," and he leaves, and like just with the like the old 40s breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 just shows up. Nuts. Not one word. He just was outfoxed in 5 seconds somehow. Love it. Then we enter basically our third act here, our climax, if you will. So with 3 more months have passed. And this is just where Clark is just hilarious here. And you're right, it's where we get into like the heavy Clark Kent of it all, where it's like the episode has been, we've got maybe like 1 or 2 scenes of Superman. And it's like Clark is like telling Lois, it's like, oh, what's got you down, Smallville? Like, I'm expecting a visitor, bit of a pest, eh? Yeah. Like, it reminds me that she's going on about her sister, and then she sees like animals are at the Daily Planet all of a sudden. Was that a penguin? And then this to me, I think, is actually the Daily Tim. Him as Clark Kent saying, I'm afraid so.
Yeah, I'll sign off on that for sure.
Anyway, so all the Daily Planet staff are subsequently being turned into animals. And this is a Dini being a huge fan of Superman, like through like the 50s and the silly years of Superman as well. One of the most obscure, ridiculous Superman pulls you've ever heard of, Tiki. Okay, Lois Lane turns into a horse. Okay, now
I've got a confession to make. I'm not a man. I'm a horse. Oh my god, you're a horse. Yeah, except it's not just that. I'm not a horse. I'm a broom.
yep. So you might be Tiki. I know you weren't wondering this, but I'm just going to say, what if you were wondering this, Tiki? Why is Lois Lane a horse? I'm going to tell you why. So there was this obscure. So back in the 50s, Tiki, when they were just spinning their wheels, this is when we had the era of the super pets. As in, there was Crypto the super dog, there was Streaky the super cat, there was Beppo the super chimp, there was Comet the super horse. Okay, so there was an issue where Lois Lane got turned into a horse and fell in love with Comet the super horse. I kid you not.
Oh man.
So that is why Lois is a horse.
Well, if it's anything like the Patrick Warburton and her horse from Zootopia too, I don't blame her.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. A horse with a cape, man. I mean, who can turn that down? Anyway, so then Jimmy's like pointing out, like, man, something strange is going on here. He gets turned into a turtle, which is a nod to, again, the Jimmy Olsen been there, done that, seen it all years, where at one point Jimmy was turned into, I think, like a turtle monster. So it's a bit of a nod to that. So it's like, that's why it's Jimmy turned. So again, like, nothing is by accident with Dini, man. I tell you, he's great.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the point being, like, then Mixie enters. Gee, you're fast, kiddo, which is just a great Jimmy Barb. So Superman, basically, Mixie wants to strike a new deal with Superman here. Like, look, you can get rid of me forever. You just got to have me spell my name backwards twice in a row, which means I can say Kill Tipsy's him all I want so long as I separate it. And if I win, you become my stable boy forever. Puts him like little stable boy outfit and everything. And to Mixie's shock, and this is just some of the brilliant Dini writing. This is a Dini third act. Mixie just, Superman just says, "Nah, I'll just quit. I quit. I give up. I don't want. You see, he doesn't want to do it anymore. He walks off. He turns his back on Mixie, and Mixie's like, "What are you talking about? What about your friends? Like, they don't seem to mind being animals." He's just kind of walking off. Like, Superman just he threatens to expose his identity. And this, to me, has always been my favorite bit. One of my favorite bits of Superman writing ever. I'm no joke. When Superman just says, I'll just find another disguise, which is absolutely right. He could always just find another disguise if he does get found out. Why not?
True.
It's like always, to me, that was like the eureka moment in Superman writing to me. It's like, oh my God, he could, yeah, that is right. He could, that's essentially what he does in the Red Sun, animated movie in the comic. Is basically finally creates the Clark Kent identity. He's like, all right, fine, let's come up with the secret identity. Sure. It's going to be a pain in the butt. I don't want to do it, but I'll do it if you're going to make it. It's just like an irritating little thing,
Mm-hmm.
All right, then we have like little censored curse words like over his head, which is really funny. Mixie's head, it's like, okay, he's ignoring him, he's denying him his fun. So then we get some really fun action here where he turns into a plane and he turns into a kryptonite warhead with a little kryptonite hat, which is silly as it is deadly. So, we have our merry little chase, and we go back to the Daily Planet where it all started. And Mixie, he's gloating. He's thinking, "Oh, I've beat you. I'm faster than you." Like, ha ha, Superman. And then Superman is like, "Yeah, you loser." And then Superman just grabs his head and basically pulls a Man of Steel. Almost would break his neck if he were not magical. Turns his head around, says, "No, loser, you look." And this Gilbert Gottfried just saying, like, "Shoot my monkey." And he was had the most Looney Tunes moment, like a Daffy Duck being stymied kind of moment, where I just, oh my God, I skywrote my own name backwards twice in a row. And just the editing on this scene, we cut the Superman just playing it very, very classy, very kind of concise. Is, yep, Pretty much. And it's just like, so you were the superior being all along. Well, just the humbleness in the well. Just like, well.
Yeah, like I said, this episode is just like, I mean, obviously it's got some fun Superman stuff, but I like to think that all the actual wit and kind of like cockiness comes from Clark Kent, which is unique, you know, because usually if it's cockiness, it's coming directly from Superman. So like I said, this episode is a really interesting kind of breakdown of the Superman versus Clark Kent dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, so Mixie disappears, and then, I always like this detail, like this sigh of relief from Superman, where he was putting on a bit of a front there, like, oh man, that was exhausting to deal with that guy, and he's just so relieved, like, oh, finally, he's gone, and then everything is reset, and like Lois, he's saying, well, hey, I was expecting a visitor, but he can't. So Lois is like eating the carrot because she was a horse and everything. It's just, why am I eating this carrot? And Superman is like shrugging, like Clark kind of shrugging, like, I don't know. So our little coda here. Mixie's back in the fifth dimension. He's still obsessed with Superman. He's got like a little Superman room, and he's got like a little maquette that they sold at the Warner Brothers store way back in the 90s. And he just states that I'll find a loophole, I swear. And then just be here, just like, well, since you have time to kill, he won't be going anywhere for a while. He's making kissy face with the pretty girl. He's like, well, this isn't so bad, but still, he's got Superman on the brain, turns the little maquette into a symbol monkey. It's a super symbol monkey, Tiki.
Yeah.
And we end on the creepy look on Mixie's face. He's a nutball who's obsessed with Superman, like we all are to some degree, way, shape, or form. All right.
Well, Jesus, Dragon, I'm sorry. Look, man, it wasn't even that I was like. I just genuinely was like, yeah, this episode is just really funny. It's got a lot of good gags. It's got a lot of good voice acting from Tim Daly and Gilbert Gottfried, of course. It's basically a 20-minute Looney Tune sketch. And because we already kind of talked about it in the Gilbert Gottfried in memoriam, I was really kind of struggling to actually give commentary here, Dragon. But rest assured, I did really enjoy revisiting this, and I obviously really enjoyed the episode, so I'm terribly sorry that I didn't really have a lot to add here.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, look, this is easily in a top 5. This is like an episode that is like, it's an episode that's unlike the other episodes of Superman the Animated Series, and I think that makes it all the more special. It's like Dini putting his heart and soul in like the enjoyment that he's had for Superman, like in an episode, and just like for like not just the traditional stuff that we like with Superman, but the stuff that not everyone really talks about or celebrates. It's like Superman is, I don't know, it's just something. It's kind of like this. Sorry. I guess what's great about this episode, and what's really great that we represent here, is that Superman's not just about punching people. It's not just about the displays of strength.
No, this is definitely the best kind of like battle of wits that we've seen from him so far in the series. Absolutely.
Yeah, which again, historically, Superman has not always gotten credit for that, or it's always been like, Superman Returns was boring because he didn't punch anyone. Well, it was boring for other reasons, kids. It wasn't just they didn't punch anyone. Okay, you can make that work, but Paternity Test does not exactly equal thrilling Superman movie. But yeah. So the point being, this Mixie episode, I will say this: we will see Mixie once more. And even by their creator's own admission, they realized it was kind of a thing they realized when they were too deep into the episode. They realized it was kind of a mistake. Because this episode is like, if you only ever had one shot or just one episode with Mixie, you said everything you need to say in the episode. Perfect, credits. Just like,
yeah, like I said, it's like a 20-minute Looney Tune short. It's pretty much everything you need. It's like,
and again,
the character, like, it's basically, would you say it's fair to say it's like the blue meth version of Mixie, as we're kind of, we're kind of fond of making that analogy when it comes to like the perfected versions.
Without question. I mean, Godfrey, again, ironically, Godfrey, he was in another Superman show as well as a different character. And it was like basically an original character. It was, it's kind of like the whole thing of Superman. They were having trouble with Superman's villains. I can't remember if it was Superboy or if it was the Adventures of it was Lois and Clark, but he was in one of those, and it was really silly in it. So it makes me think it was Superboy, but it probably was Lois and Clark. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, this was like him. Godfrey, he really brought this character to life and made him entertaining, and again, just really permeated him. And I feel without Godfrey, I'm not saying the episode couldn't have worked, but I don't think it would have been as iconic as it is.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, like I said, I don't think it's like the absolute like number one episode of the series, but as far as just sheer comedy, I think this is going to be hard to beat, honestly.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
basically, it was this and Lobo, and it's this easy. Look, I love the Lobo episode. But this is funny.
I really like Lobo, but yeah, this definitely takes the cake easily. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Okay, let's see. Little Blue says, genuinely, I first knew Gilbert Gottfried voicing Mixie in Lego Batman 3. Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So Gilbert Gottfried had voiced Mixie a few other times. So I mean, the Lego Batman 3 had characters beyond Batman characters, so it would not surprise me that he was in that as well.
All right. Also, Kogi asked just a few comments from him. He's saying, in the picture, it looks like Mixie is poking fun at Clark for reading a newspaper that doesn't have any words on it. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. That is kind of the vibe. All right. He also says Mixie doesn't get adapted very often, but for what it's worth, I think that the animated series has the best adaptation of him.
Yeah.
And I think, I think this conversation definitely proves that we're aligned with that for sure. Also, Superman and Mixie's comedic chemistry is great in this episode. I think this episode proves that Superman has a personality and isn't boring.
Yeah.
One could say that he's a punk rocker. Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
All right, Dragon. I think that's about it. You want to get on to the next one?
Yep. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman, diverting mighty streams of molten magma. Superman, saving misled children. Superman, battling time, a volcano, and a kryptonite-fueled robot man.
On the next visit to the Fortress of Recaps with action figures. Affleck! Hey, Affleck! Why'd you play Batman, Affleck? You could have played Superman. Affleck!
He was George Reeves.